Why, hello. Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics, which isn't easy, but we try to do it anyways. I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to LEAH. And I'm here, of course, with my beautiful and lovely co-host, Mac Attack, the Big Daddy, Daddy of Six, Karate Kid, the Great Skeptic.
Thank you. And we are here with the man behind the curtain, the one and
Heck
only
yeah.
Wizard of Oz. Oh shit, dude! You totally missed out on a Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, AUS, Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, yeah, and that is Nacha Witness.
Yes, our Lord and Savior.
Yes. So with our
Yeah.
powers combined, we're going to talk about depressing things, and not just mostly
Yeah.
going to listen and build the Titanic.
Not-
And I
Yeah.
think he's building it unsunk right now, but we'll find out later. Maybe he'll tell us in
will.
side chat. All right, so Christy, from my knowledge, you are mostly leading the discussion tonight, right?
Yeah. You know, it's
On your
hard
backup
to
guy?
there is a lot going on, and I know that, and I am staying informed, but at the same time it's hard to cover anything else. I mean, look, it's hard to cover anything else. It just is when there's something that the biggest crime on humanity in a generation is happening right now. And so we're just going to dedicate this show to doing an update. We're going to bring it home and talk about how this particular crime against humanity is, affecting us here, whether it's policy, college students, the rhetoric. It is it's pretty sad. So let's get right on into that then. I want to talk about we have college students. We all know that, we've covered it a few times here, but Harvard has just denied students their degrees, and I want to talk about that for a second. Yes, Mac? Oh, I just saw your hand.
I was adjusting my watch because I'm really warm and it was too tight. So my bad. No questions,
Okay.
just adjustments. You don't have to mind me adjusting myself. It's all behind the scenes.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Oh man. One second. Okay, much better. And I probably need my ibbles because I'm an old lady, and without them, I'll be making funny faces. Not that my face isn't funny by itself, but
It's a beautiful funny face.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right. The faculty voted to let 13 seniors graduate. Harvard overruled them. These anti-genocide, pro-Palestinian freedom students say the decision violates the terms of a deal they had reached with the administration prior. Oh gosh, it's just, ugh. Hundreds of graduates walked out in protest at Harvard University's commencement ceremony on Thursday, in protest of the war in Gaza and the college's decision not to confer degrees on 13 of these students who protested.
Oh yeah, those students sound like they're a bunch of radical extremists. Sounds like they're going pretty far already.
You would think, they were, hateful, violent rhetoric and violent actions. You would just assume that, right?
Yeah,
Harvard's
they walked.
They marched and protested. We'll be able to understand a little bit more of that in a second. Harvard's controversial decision to block the 13 seniors from graduating strengthened the intensity of Thursday's demonstration, which was far louder, far larger, and more extensive than graduation protests at any other university in the region thus far this spring. according to the Boston Globe. Many of the protesting graduates wore kefefes, waved Palestinian flags, and carried placards with messages such as "For Gaza" and "Free Palestine." They chanted "Let them walk" in support of the 13 students during the ceremony before marching out to a nearby church for what one organizer called the People's Commencement. Harvard University's board on Wednesday, the day before, rejected a faculty vote to allow all 13 seniors who had participated in a pro-Palestine encampment to graduate, provoking outrage from educators, professors, and students alike. Some who protested just outside the commencement ceremony Thursday morning. Some of them were professors. The Wednesday announcement followed competing decisions by Harvard institutions in the days leading up to this graduation. On May 18th, the college's administrative board announced disciplinary actions against students, suspending 5 and placing more than 20 on probation for their involvement in the on-campus encampment, which ended last week. This left 13 seniors ineligible to graduate. Professors in Harvard's Faculty of Arts and Sciences responded on Monday by voting to amend the list of students receiving degrees to include the 13 students, effectively rejecting the administrative board's decision. Harvard's main governing board, known as the corporation, that's not ominous, had to make the final decision, which they announced in a statement on Wednesday. Statement. Because the 13 students included as the result of Monday's amendment are not in good standing, we cannot responsibly vote to award them degrees at this time. In coming to this determination, we note that the express provisions of the Harvard College Student Handbook state that students who are not in good standing are not eligible for degrees. We also considered the inequity of exempting a particular group of students who are not in good standing from established rules, while other seniors with similar status for matters unrelated to Monday's faculty amendment would be unable to graduate. So that, I mean, the way that that is stated is, I mean, you're like, well, I mean, those are the rules. They're yes and no. They also had a huge vote of all the professors stating, I know what my student, has done, has put in the work. They deserve this degree. That's neither here nor there at this point. Quote, I would expect a faculty rebellion, possibly a faculty rebellion against the entire governance structure, because there's already a fair amount of mistrust towards the corporation to begin with, end quote. Government professor Stephen Levinsky told The Crimson. The decision leaves uncertain the immediate future of the 13 students, 2 of whom have been awarded Rhodes scholarships to study at Oxford University. Quote, despite fulfilling their degree requirements, these 13 students will not receive their diplomas, fellowships, and grad funding because of the corporation's decision, end quote. Harvard, out of occupied Palestine, a student group wrote on social media, the faculty's vote was a, quote, clear repudiation of the administrative board's unduly harsh punishment, end quote, the post said. Pro-Palestine students also said that the corporation's decision violated the terms of a deal they had reached with the administration prior. They ended the 20-day protest on the Harvard Yard on May 14th after interim Harvard University President Alan Garber wrote an email promising to, quote, encourage the administrative board or other disciplinary bodies within the schools to address these expeditiously under the existing precedent and practice, including taking into account where relevant the voluntary decision to leave the encampment for all students, including those students eligible thereafter to graduate so that they may do so, end quote. Protesters set up outside Harvard's graduation Thursday morning as the college's other seniors received their degrees. The tumult at Harvard follows a spring of Gaza-related protests at campuses across the United States, which have led to thousands of arrests as well as disciplinary action by universities, despite the lack of protester violence on the protester side. Many of these colleges still have graduation ceremonies in the coming weeks. So, I mean, there's a lot more information on it. I just wanted to give you the rundown, and then I know Mac has something to say about it. It is just insane that this is where we're at.
Yeah, I mean it is. Just overall. Um uh there was something I was gonna say in specific and I don't remember what it was anymore. Um no, I don't have a follow-up right now because I forgot it. uh why don't you tell me your
Yeah.
first thoughts on this?
My
And we'll see if it sparks my memory. I apologize.
authoritarianism, free speech for me, but not for thee. Let's sit down and negotiate and come up with things. And then they did, and they both walked away feeling negotiated. They both walked away feeling like we didn't get everything we wanted, but we did get something, which is a good negotiation, included their graduation and diplomas and degrees. And then they said no, because, and this is not just my opinion, it is an educated opinion and an opinion held by professors and other people on the same board. The alumni who have stated they will not donate any more money if you let these particular rabble rousers walk. And so now I don't have receipts on who said that. I'm taking the word of the people who have said it without needing to be anonymous. I just, you know, you can't punish kids for doing what history is going to show they've been on the right side. They just,
No,
it
I
is.
honestly what's sad is you can do this. You can do this to
Yeah,
kids.
they can and they have.
Um
But they just made these 13 students insta famous. So
yeah, and like I would love to see um other colleges maybe offer like honorary degrees or something.
yeah,
I think that would be a good move, a good step in the right direction from academia in general.
right.
And maybe something like that will happen. So I would like to, as we are trying to keep up on these stories that we're sharing, keep an eye out for anything like that at all.
Yeah.
That said,
I can move on to arrest warrants. We have information update of arrest warrants, and then I'll let you do the Euromed and the information that you have, and then we'll end with Professor Ilan Pape.
sure. But before we do that, um, I would like to kind of segue just a little bit. Um, just to remind everyone of why there's arrest warrants and
Mhm.
why this particular topic of college kids and what they're doing and what the colleges are doing in response is important. Because if you guys didn't notice on MSNBC, one of the hosts went ahead and uh, dove in. He just kind of went off the usual script and started calling out Israel for the crimes that it's been doing against students in Gaza. He made the point that we we're so focused on what's happening over here on our campuses, the protests, and what's happening to these people who are protesting, which is important. But there have been 406 damaged schools in Gaza. And I don't see on the Euromed monitor how many are just completely destroyed?
There are no colleges, universities left whatsoever. I know
Right. But I
that
don't remember how many were there in the first place, but they're gone.
there were a
Right.
lot. Yeah.
They like those colleges are gone. Um, and I don't know who who should give a shit
Mhm.
about the third world countries um education system.
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe first world students. Like it kind of makes sense, right? They're the people who could potentially get the most empathy out of this. Be like, well, wow, there's people not getting what we're getting. Also, they don't have home and full food and shelter and water, all this, right?
Right.
They're just being empathetic.
Mm.
Because when you get an education, you have the potential to understand that you have received such a big privilege by getting your education, not just a piece of paper that comes with it, but you get the privilege of seeing how useful, not saying that everyone does or everyone agrees with it, but you have the potential to see how useful and how great this education is. And that is a privilege and not really a right because it's still a capitalistic item, education. You have that potential to see that it is just a privilege. You are privileged to get this, and other people who are also potentially privileged are keep or have that completely taken off the table now in Gaza. And
Yeah.
hopefully, a lot of people walk away thinking like, "Wow, everyone should kind of get the basics like we do," because at least in our first world shit show of a country, um, our education our education system is fucked, to put it gently and to put it quickly.
Yeah, depending on
We
what
don't.
state you live in and what tax bracket your family's home is in, depends on the education you're gonna get.
It does, um, and to a point, it really doesn't even it hardly matters where you go to school at in this country. The education system sucks. We don't we don't prep our kids, our learning people for a healthy, productive, satisfying life. We prep them mostly for the industrial workspace and give them I hardly want to say a high school level of knowledge by the time they get out because the history and the science standard that I think that our country gets is so low. Like
It also
we we,
depends on
we
where you
hardly.
live.
Hmm?
We have good standards in many places across this country. It
Yeah,
literally depends on where you live. Like our governor, Ron DeSantis, has pretty much taken STEM off the it's not an he's eliminated so much those standards. There are students in this state of mine who have had to flee to other states so that when they do get that degree, it will actually be the degree. Because if they get the degree here in that particular field, they are not qualified to to go anywhere and use it because they didn't. It's just like the states. Louisiana just made methylprednisolone a controlled substance, and also the laws where abortion is pretty much off the table, illegal. the med students who are taking I can never say that word, OB/GYN, who want to
Yeah.
be in birth care and women's care, have had to flee their states as well, hoping other states will take them. Now they're doing out of state tuition, which is significantly more expensive because in order to be an OB doctor, they have to have certain credits in different education that they can't get in states that have taken those options away for the general public.
Yeah.
So it's, and yeah, like you said, it's a shit show across the country. You don't know where, who, what.
I would
It's
like to see, honestly, and maybe we can have someone who knows more about this topic nationwide on our show. That would be wonderful. I would love to talk to them about what is like what do the highest standards of our education system look
right,
like to high school. That's what I'm more focused on at the moment. Because in college, you really do learn a lot um, of things that you can carry on a more fruitful life with. But our high schools were more designed to get people ready for the workplace, like the industrial um, capitalistic workplace, of which, I mean, that's why we have bells in schools, literally. So they could get used to going to break, coming back from break, listening to the bell. The bell is part of the
yeah. We don't
ruling
have
class.
that type, we don't have
What?
factories. We don't have factories in mass anymore that offer that type of structure where the bell rings and you're working till the break bell, and then you work until the lunch bell, and then you go.
Mhm.
Factories are not that widespread anymore across our country.
No,
Most
they're
things are
not.
in America. So
Right.
Smitty did a good point. Other colleges could use this as an opportunity to elevate themselves in comparison to Harvard. I agree. Matt kind of said
Mhm.
something like that. Here at Brown College, we don't steal your tuition if you protest genocide. However, he's using Brown as an example. Brown has actually been stupendous on so many things. They've came out and immediately said, we support protesters. It's a huge part of going to college. It's a huge part. It's our first amendment. It's the very first, and they support all of it. They to the letter. I'm sorry, Nazis can have tiki tortures and scream how Jews will not replace them. And you can also have people saying genocide is wrong. Like that is just pretty much how they see it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I would like this reminds me of a conversation. Do you guys mind if I share a conversation I had today?
absolutely.
Great.
I'm just
Um, this is a little bit me tooting my own horn a little bit. But I talked to one of my martial arts instructors today, or two of them, and I brought up this topic of Israel and Palestine, and I gave them my take on how I am very annoyed with the cited notion of Israel has the right to defend itself. And I'm like, and they both like stared at me like, oh shit, what's he gonna say? Because I just said I'm annoyed with this. I'm just like, and I agree. It's absolutely fine. Israel has the right to defend itself. What Israel is doing right now is not self-defense. And they both like went, yes, absolutely. Because again, we all teach self-defense. And they're both much, much higher ranked than I am. At least one of them is much higher. Um, and has nearly 30 years of martial arts experience. And he's like, no, absolutely. He agreed with every single word I've said on the show and outside. That this isn't self-defense. It's just not. We can say that they have a right to it all we want, but this isn't it. All right. And indiscriminate bombing is a war crime. He just repeated, yeah, it's a war crime. I'm like, yeah, cool. I just wanted to get you guys' opinion because I've been saying it and you guys are also in the self-defense kind of thing, and I just wanted to share that with everyone because I thought that was a little bit vindicating. And it was a really good discussion with some people that I really respect in my field of things. But yeah, it's really easy to see from anyone who cares about self-defense, like lawful. And this is a former police officer as well.
Right.
He has a lot of self-defense and protection like background in general. They were 100% on board. Yeah, absolutely. This is not self-defense. What they're doing is terrible. It's war crimes. Yeah, of course, like they're doing this with the ICC, and I didn't know that they said that they might, what raid the Hague. And yeah,
They
it's
better invade Netherlands. That's all I'm saying. The whole world would be the enemy then, because that's not. Either we are for a rule-based world, which I mean, you can pull up videos of the 100 and something times Obama said rule-based world in his first 4 years. Biden, how many times he said before any of this happened, just talking about any Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine, that we live in a rule-based world, and how he supported the ICC ICJ against Vladimir Putin, and take all of that and put it side by side with the logic not following, not being consistent, not following those same rules for anybody else that they consider to be good. We do have Israel was today, they came out and said that they are demanding that Israel immediately stop its onslaught in Rafah. Like that, I mean, immediately, that you cannot force an entire population to an area saying it is safe and then ask them all to leave to go to where you've eliminated everything. There's nowhere where they can go.
who came
And
out and
so
said that to
the ICC.
ICC came. Okay.
Right. And so, I mean, if it was, let's just say that it was the other way around. Let's just say that Egypt had, corralled Israelis into an area and was eliminating a terrorist group that was going after them that they needed to defend themselves against. And just put the Jews in place of the Palestinians, and you'll immediately have that cringe effect because of how we all were raised. And it's right. No one should have to go through that. No one should be persecuted for their color, for their religion. You're persecuted for your actions. You're persecuted, not for your beliefs. Not. Just we believe this as a society, as a country, for everything except for this. So frustrating. I had somebody tell me, this was before October 7th. It was probably about 5-6 months before that. I had said something about the settlers going into a specific place, and here's what it looked like. Now all their doors got welded shut from the road. They're not even allowed to use the main road. They have to go out their back windows if they didn't have a back door to this day. And and their reply, not that I was asking them how they felt about it, was, well, I can't say anything because I'm sure God doesn't want me to talk bad about Israel. What? I'm talking about the people, the government there. Like, I can't talk to you. So my head was like, blah, 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 like, yes, Mac.
Yeah. That shows theocracy.
You think?
Yeah.
Wow.
What
Yeah.
a what an example.
Right. Yes, I know. All right. So the arrest warrants, I
Yes.
want to say, the actual charges that are being lobbied against Israel, the Israeli officials, let's just say, not Israel. First are the starvation of Gaza and the civilians as a method of warfare, and causing great suffering or serious injury the besieging the enclave, willfully killing and murdering intentionally, like you had said, indiscriminate bombing is the same as intentional. Intentionally directing attacks against the civilian population, extermination by starvation. Let's see. Persecution and other inhumane acts committed from at least October 8th are all part of the widespread and systematic attack against the Palestinian civilian population. Let's see. Persecution, other, yeah. Pursuant to state policy. So these, of course, are serious crimes. All of them, are violations of international law. Critics, though, are saying, oh, why isn't genocide part of it? Why is it apartheid part of it? Why is it settlements a part of it? Why is it arresting all these people, holding them as hostages with no charges part of it? And I do have to say, I pay attention to international law. I pay attention to international court cases. I find them fascinating. I find that they are the best that we as human society, as the race of humans, the best that we have right now. Maybe we can do better. I believe we can do better. But as of right now, that's the best, the highest court of the land. And there have been cases where they put arrest warrants out, and in those arrest warrants are not the worst crimes that are obvious to the world. However, once they start going and more evidence is allowed to come in, they're able to add them to them. So don't jump to conclusions. Mondoweiss, I don't know if you guys watch or listen to the Mondoweiss podcast. I will link it right now in the chat. They have their episode 7 ICC arrest warrants. It's really, really good. They break down the who, what, where. They have somebody coming in from the ICC. It's really wonderful. So I will. Mondoweiss is one of my favorites. All right, what were you gonna say, Mr. McAttack?
Yeah, couple things. I have a added point to kind of piggyback here. I don't know if you're on the same page I am. It doesn't matter. I'm going to scroll up a little bit where it names first for Israel. We're specifically talking about the arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. But if we scroll up,
yeah, I know.
For Hamas.
Hebrew names and Hebrew language, my tongue and mouth, it's like I can't. I try though. Okay. Yeah, Gallant. Gallant and
we have I want to say Yahya Sinwar.
Yes.
Mohammed Diab, Ibrahim
yes.
Al Masrai, and Ismail Hanaya. I'm trying. All right. So these are the war criminals that have also been issued arrest warrants for on the Hamas side. One is the first one, Sinwar, is the head of Islamic Resistance Movement, Hamas, in the Gaza Strip. The other one, Al Masri, is the commander-in-chief of the military wing of Hamas, known as the Al-Qassam Brigades. And Hanaya is the head of Hamas Political Bureau. Now, I want to go through their crimes real quick as Christy went through the Israeli ones, because this is important, especially for anyone who wants to watch the show and like, why didn't they name the Hamas? Right? So I am both sides in it a little bit, and I am comparing these two terrorists. Just for the record, I am comparing Hamas to the Israeli war machine, basically.
A war crime is a
So
war crime, no matter
yeah,
who
war crime,
commits it.
war crime. Don't give a fuck. You, you do the time, or I'm sorry, you do the crime. You should plan to do the time. And okay, so we're looking at the as extermination as a crime against humanity, um, and murder as a crime against humanity. Just murder in general is a war crime, um, at least in this sense. Taking hostages as a war crime. Rape and other acts of sexual violence as crimes against humanity, and also war crimes pursuant to Article 8(2)(e)(6) in the context of captivity. Torture as a crime against humanity. I don't need to repeat that part over and over. And war crime and other inhumane acts, cruel treatment, uh, outrages upon personal dignity. Okay. All bad. Absolutely. It actually doesn't sound as bad as some of the other shit we just rolled from Israel. So when I compare them, it's kind of wild when we lay them out. Um, and I mean, the reason we didn't have rape and other acts of sexual violence on the Israel side is because, guys, we're not talking about both sides. We're not talking about the entire entity of Hamas and the entire entity of the IDF or the Knesset. We're not. We're talking about arrest warrants for these 5 people. And I just realized something during the show when I raised my hand uh, to Christy, is we are actually in quite the predicament in this time. And I don't know if you've realized this. I don't know. I actually haven't heard anyone talk about this, but this is really interesting. So I want everyone to like kind of speak up and let me know what you're thinking. But as difficult as these names are to say, Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Diab, Ibrahim Al Masri, right? We can deal with some of that. Osama bin Laden, we've learned Saddam Hussein, right? There are some names. What's the one that Trump murked from Iran?
General Soleimani.
Yeah, Qasem Soleimani. We can say that. We can
Hot
say
salami.
that.
Hot
Salami.
salami.
Cut salami. Um, damn it, Christy.
I remember hot salami, and then I able to remember his name.
Yahya Sinwar, the head of the Islamic resistance movement, Hamas. Again, Yahya Sinwar. We can't say that. My point is we can. My point is, I don't think we've ever been in a conflict like this where we don't put names to the movement, because that's not the goal of
Right.
Israel or the US to cut the head off of this dragon. It is to kill the entire habitat of the dragon. That is the point. And we've known that for a while. And this isn't the end all be all argument, right? But we've always had a name. I guess ISIS and Al Qaeda. Maybe not. But again, when we're not looking for the head of an organization, we're looking to take out the whole thing. I think is part of what constructs these narratives. Literally, this is how you manufacture consent of a larger, longer war,
right,
with more of a death toll.
Well,
when you
what are they
don't
doing in the West Bank
name.
then?
I'm
If they
sorry.
want to, they only want to take out Hamas and all of Hamas, then what the F are they doing in the West Bank? That just goes to your point. They want to, it's, manufacturing consent. Let's get them to here so that we can get them to here so that we can get them to here. And then it's like, well, they're bad. So,
I've heard from different top officials that they're guilty enough. They are Palestinian after all.
yeah. To that, Netanyahu said about these arrest warrants that these institutions were founded to protect us, he said. And
mm,
now they're after Israel. He does not see that these institutions were created to hold anyone who commits these crimes accountable. That they should never happen. It should be never again. They weren't created just to protect them, to facilitate and serve them, to help them in a sense, and that this is not something related to Netanyahu. This is, a case for every nation to not do these things.
right.
Um,
Every inventor knows, I mean, people who study invention history knows that you make progress not by using a device necessarily the way that it was intended, but finding a device and being like, not only what am I supposed to use this for, but what can it do? What can this thing do? And what could I do to it to make it do what else? Those are interesting questions to further yourself in inventing things or just to be innovative in general. And Netanyahu looking at the United Nations and the ICC, being like, hey, these establishments were meant to protect us, right? We put all these laws and stuff in place to just protect us. I mean, that was the point of it. So like, that's all it can do. It's what we made it for. Is all it can do. You can't use it for anything. Well, we can, or we probably should, like use those principles to further innovate how we want to run societies on a global scale because
yeah,
no one trusts their own goddamn country.
they shouldn't.
And no, and I mean, yeah, you shouldn't, not blindingly, right? It would be
Yeah,
great if we could trust our country. I would love to get to that. I would love to live to see that point. I don't think I will, but I would like to see more of a movement in a United Nations that actually has power because we don't give veto power to the US. We don't give veto power to um, any country at like either all or none because this was built on democratic principles, except not, except when we don't like it. Right? The big dogs who are in charge with the bigger sticks, putting it all together. And I know like we need to lead by example, but there's a thin line of leading by example and um beating everyone to your example uh with your big sticks. Um no, I just think this is really interesting and I almost um fell into the little hole of, as I said, well, with ISIS and Al Qaeda, there weren't names to the top of those because we were trying to do a forever war, and this is one of those things. I think that it is incredibly interesting that I haven't seen any clips about CNN talking about Yahya Sinwar.
no, you're not going to.
Fox hasn't. Tucker
Of course.
Carlson hasn't. But he's more of a I just want to talk about America anyways. Isolationist is what I meant. But
There
it's
was a video put, if anyone's interested. It's called Palestine's resistance groups. It was put out about a week and a half ago by Breakthrough News. It's a little over an hour. It is so full of knowledge. I mean, it's so full of information. I can also link that if people want. It is excellent. It's what you need to have a well-developed opinion about any of these groups, because you cannot just hear what other people are saying who do not like them. Although you should listen to all of that and hear it and take it down and find the receipts that are available to prove any of their claims. Those claims that are proven to be demonstrably true, you have to accept them as a fact. And the same with the people who are writing pieces and discussing them as resistance groups. What kind of receipts do they have? You know, what can be demonstrably shown to be a fact, and then you take it all and you make a well-rounded opinion on any of them. And to not have that information and to say you know something about it is just Dunning-Kruger. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
I also wanted to share this little quote, and I think you may have referenced it already, but I wanted to make sure that I got it in here because I did look it up. Khan, Karim Khan, the prosecutor for the ICC who issued these warrants, said that at one point there's a comment made to him by a senior elected Western leader that iterated that or that they were irate that the ICC was considering war crime charges for the Israeli leadership, and about how this court, in quotes, this court was made for Africa and thugs like Putin, just as Christy was talking about. It's not what it was meant to do; it's what it can do and probably should do. This isn't hard. It's just living by your principles. That's something that we've repeated over and over here on the show, and I'm a very, very big believer in this. This is how I learn things, guys. I try to learn what certain principles are important to me or different things. This is literally also how I learn martial arts. There is a principle base in the ones that I learn, and if you break any of those principles, then you aren't doing the art anymore. Right? You're not playing the same game anymore. You're breaking the rules. You're doing something else, and it could be a good something else. You can be innovative and go do something else, but you aren't doing that thing anymore, right? You aren't being the ICC anymore. If you break the principle base, if you break the statutes, then you aren't doing your job anymore.
Yeah, it should be consistent. Unfortunately, is not very consistent. Yeah.
No. Unfortunately.
We do have one more topic, but it's still on Gaza. It's still part of Gaza. I don't know if any of you are know about the book called The 100-Year War. It's by Professor Ilan Pape. Okay, it is available for free on YouTube as an audiobook. There is no reason anyone who is interested should not be consuming this information. So in the 80s, he is a historian. In Israel, he is a Jew. All of this information was coming to light because of who was running the country, who was the administration, and they were very freedom of information, all this stuff was happening, right? And they opened up the vaults to a lot of documents about the founding of Israel, and he couldn't wait to get in there. And everything changed in his life, and all the historians who were part of this movement at that time, they have since locked up everything that they didn't get to, and no one's allowed to get to it. And what he found was what we know to be true. So his book, The 100-Year War, is from an Israeli Jew whose family fled in the Holocaust, who left pogrom after pogrom, fought for their lives, and he is an Iranian Jew who had to leave Iran because of how horrible it was getting, and then Zionism happened and his family really had to get out of there because Zionism was making it dangerous for Jews around the world. And his story is the book, his personal story is so fascinating and heartbreaking and heartwarming. He is one of the most educated and empathetic historians alive to this day, and he really has a passion for factual information and making sure that it is accessible to the masses. So this brilliant professor, Professor Elan Pape, was interrogated at a United States airport, and collapse of the Zionist project is one of the things that he was here to talk about. Let's see. I do have a lot of back and forths because I read lots of different articles about it. The best one is the transcript on Democracy Now! From her interview with him, because it's from his mouth. It's not someone else talking about, what happened. I will say the War and Peace report with Amy Goodman is what it was on. And she wants to ask Professor Pape about his trip that he took to the United States recently. When he arrived at the Detroit airport, he was questioned for 2 hours by federal agents about Gaza, Hamas, and other issues. Like who his friends are in the Palestinian movement, what are their names? Like, are you kidding me? Agents only allowing him to enter the country after they copied the entire contents of his cell phone. He says he has nothing to hide, so he said, whatever. Are you kidding me? Like, what? But he's coming from Israel, where this is just how they act. So he's like, I mean, yeah, do what you got to do. That's not how we act here.
Did you say this was in Detroit?
Detroit airport. He said, yes, I will answer that. But if I may, and I think it connects to previous conversations we've had, I just want to say that there's something bigger here than just the question of the ICC and Israel abiding or not abiding by it. I think that it's a moment of truth for the international tribunals, such as the ICC and the ICJ, because they would face governments that would not probably implement the rulings, because Israel still thinks it has very strong allies. And I think the rest of the world, especially the global south, would watch to see whether the terms of universal and international really mean something. So I think Palestine is just one case of many in which we have now a real struggle to define, again, what is universal? What are universal values? And what is international justice and international law? And I think that's why it's such an important historical moment. Now, to come back to the ordeal, which was not that big of a deal, he says, because like I said, he lives in Israel. But I think it's part of a bigger picture. I arrived in Detroit after 8 hours flight from London and was taken immediately to a side room by federal agents. And they had 2 sets of questions for me. One was about my views about Hamas, my views about what's happening in Gaza. Do I frame what happened in Gaza as genocide? They wanted to know my reaction to the slogan, quote, Palestine should be free from the river to the sea, end quote. They refused to tell me why they stopped me. Why did I have to answer these questions? And then another set of questions had to do with, whom do I know among the American Muslim community, the American Arab community, and the Palestinian community in the United States? And that was followed by taking my phone for a long period, copying everything on it, and then making me wait another amount of time for phone conversations before letting me in. So they copied everything. It goes on and on. I mean, I there's a lot of information in this. I can also share that right now with you guys in the chat. However, I suggest reading this transcript. It's eye-opening. And yes, it's eye-opening. And you can watch the video on Democracy Now. Just type in Professor Ilan Pape. That's his first name, and Pape Pappe is his last name, and it will pop up. But to read it's damn is all I mean. It's like Gestapo shit. Like they take your phone and copy everything on it. And I mean, I know our government does stuff like this, but to be so blatant about it, that's why I disagree with prior to this conflict, to this genocide, how Israel does criminal justice in its country. I just think it's cruel, it's fascist, it's horrendous, and none of that shit would fly here. Now, stuff like that does happen here. It's just not blatant like that. Like the guy who threw the shoe at Bush. Everyone knows the story. They've seen the video of the guy throwing a shoe at Bush and then him getting tackled. And then getting tackled. That's what we know. What we don't know is that he got beaten to within an inch of his life, all of his teeth knocked out of his face, facial fractures all up and down, like his eye. Yeah, like he almost died for throwing a shoe by our president's Secret Service. So yeah, that's some fucking fascist shit. Do I think he should be held for throwing a shoe at a president? Of course. Not physically violent. Are you? Yeah. So I mean, it does happen, but to be so Ilan Pape, this professor, his only crime is to tell the truth historically, and with the facts that can be proven, how he bases his opinion on stuff. That's his only crime. And of course, that's not, he gets death threats from Israelis and from Israel and Jewish people who are on the far right here all the time, every day. And it's just really sad that that's where we are. Or, oh, you support them, then you should move there. They would cut your head off. You're gay. They would rape you. You should be raped by them. What? Why is that your immediate argument? Why? I don't have to agree with their anything to know that they shouldn't be mass murdered.
No.
Like, that's simple.
It really is just that simple.
It is that simple. And then in order to get people to change hearts and minds, you don't do it fascistly with a boot on their neck. I don't agree with the ideology that Hamas holds as their belief. I think it's abhorrent. But in order to get people, especially the younger generations, who will go in that path, if they have two options, starve or pick up a gun and go after the people who killed your family. To get to those kids is not going to be by putting a boot on their neck or eliminating them so they're not a future problem. Are you fucking kidding me? That's disgusting. No, it's to give them options, to give them education, to give them empathy and love and show them there's a fucking different way. It makes me so mad, man. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, it also makes me mad. Obviously. I yelled a lot last week. But one of the things that I worry about more than most is kind of our little community. Not just LEAH, but our little atheist online community. Because to a point, at a bird's eye view, to someone who cares about what's happening with different religious sects, this is just one extremist religious group versus another extremist religious group. But we don't look from just a religious viewpoint. We don't look at all the other factors that make them people groups. It's where we have to get more political. And a lot of our community doesn't want to do that because they don't want to mix the politics with the religion as we specialize in. But it's so important to, because it is so easy to dehumanize.
We can't move past this level as a community unless we open up to more. Right. To be able to just, we don't have to agree at the end, but we do have to agree on the factual information before we make our opinions on those facts. We cannot have different facts. That's not how any of this works.
Right. It's not how it works. And it's a little maddening to see some people in our community not know enough about certain political issues. And we get it. We have seen so many political fights break up a whole bunch of friendships and make channels really bump heads. I mean, honestly though, it's kind of growing pains.
Yeah, it is.
Um, and it sucks. And I know people don't want to do it, but I mean, eventually you have to break out of your bubble again and again and again and grow. And sometimes you can do that in a mature way of,
Yes.
look, I don't agree with you, but we can still have constructive conversations. And that is one of the bases of why I think the US education system as a whole
He
is
has
fucked.
failed.
We don't teach enough communication skills. We don't teach enough philosophy. We don't teach enough mental exercises and disagreeing with people and how to come to conflict resolution, which we should have before you graduate high school. Just
Yeah,
start these
logical
skills
be taught.
before you
I
go to
mean,
junior high.
you should know how to steel man an argument that you vehemently disagree with and know what steel man means before you graduate high school.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, you should have a good foundation for this before you reach junior high, because you already have to deal with a whole bunch of kids. It's not
Yeah.
those little brats like
Believe.
yourself
Yep.
every single fucking day.
With
And
different beliefs and different, cultures and different.
attitudes, individual attitudes alone, let alone all the people groups and the religions and the political factions that their families are part of, and the sports teams, right? Local and national, like everything. You people end friendships over the most minute, stupid shit when you're in high school. Like, oh, well, he's a Michigan fan. He wouldn't fucking wisen up, and we got in a fight over it, and he took it too far because he can't take a fucking joke. Yeah, people lose friends for not being able to take jokes. And some people don't understand when a joke goes too far. It's something
Right.
as simple as that, that I feel like our education system should put like front and foremost, because we don't
Yeah.
teach people how to have conversations like adults. And then when it comes to these big issues like this, even when we dive in to like the history of religion, and then the psychology of religion and the history of psychology of religion, which causes tribalism and all these different sects and wars and sects and
How,
wars, sex wars.
how evolution comes into that. The
Yeah.
evolution of the human brain looks for patterns and is we're thinking
For
as of
most
right now, the information we have is geared towards some type of spiritualism. It doesn't have to be true, just yeah. So when you take in all of that, it's
and
it
not
actually made my life better.
yeah, it can. It's enlightening. Um,
Yeah.
but people like us who want to have these more difficult conversations and learn conflict uh, resolution, evolution doesn't always look kindly on that,
No.
because those who will kill for their beliefs tend to kill the ones who don't want to kill for their beliefs.
Right.
And
Right.
it's scary and it's terrifying, but that's why when we have influence and we have any semblance of power, we need to push for better solutions, quicker and again younger, to
Education.
push
Education.
peace on younger
Yes.
generations, because it can catch on. It is still in the gene pool, rationality, but um, it fades so fast because violence just begets violence. Like it
But yet,
violence causes trauma, and
Yeah.
trauma causes trauma responses. And then that's just how certain people, you can see it. You know a family that has wrecked someone you know personally,
Mm.
and that person has no conflict resolution. They just fucking get mad
Yeah, revenge. They want revenge immediately.
because that's how they've learned to function. Everyone knows at least a person or a full fucking family.
Or their whole
And
family.
yeah, but how you get out of that is when they leave for 6 to 8 hours a day to go to school, they learn better ways to learn.
Yeah.
And we need to teach communication skills, rationality,
Yeah.
so they have a better way to communicate and function in society. Um, one of my favorite
The
examples. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I said the more you know.
The more you know. Um, and I'll tack this on at the end. One of my favorite examples of um animals, like the animal kingdom, and like how animals function in their own societies. Like when we watch them in the zoo and their own species and their own packs, right? Is we see these alpha male ideas of an alpha male, stereotypes is the word I'm looking for. Sometimes it's not the might makes right gorilla who leads the pack. Sometimes the might makes right gorilla fucks with um just the cool chill guy that everyone else in the pack likes. And everyone's like, well, you fucking style. We like him. He's just nice to us. And everyone will get on the alpha male's fucking case and sometimes run him off in the wild or sometimes in the zoo, like just ostracize him. Because, like, yeah, you're begging you can beat us all up, but we're fucking sick of your shit. Stop picking on little Joe here because he makes us all happy and he shares his snacks and he always checks extra for text. You just are big, buff, hot, and want sex all the time. And we're kind of sick of your beefy, stupid head. Right? Like you'll literally see this in different species.
Yeah. You weren't
That
gonna talk to me like that anymore, Mac.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to point you out. Again. um,
I'm
but
trying
no,
so hard.
you're trying so hard. You're trying too hard, Christy. You're trying too hard. You and your big beefy. Okay. Uh, um, you see this throughout the animal kingdom, and it's just altruism. It's might makes right versus altruism, and people like people who are nice to them. They want to protect those people because it protects a way of life that they prefer.
Yeah.
And
Because
if that life isn't offered as an option, you don't choose it. Ugh. It's Christy's. Ugh.
now, if
So
you're covered in a certain way, even if before you knew there were other ways to your in your mind encroaching on your beliefs, you had things that you didn't like about it, and you could criticize it, and you wanted things to change, but then another group moves in and they have other beliefs and ideas, and all of a sudden yours is threatened. So you double down instead of saying, teach me what you guys know, believe, and think. I'll show you what I know, believe, and think. I'll take what you do better and adopt it as my own. And maybe you could do the same. And then our children will have better ideas, beliefs, and culture. Like it's that simple, but it's not because the human mind is so scared.
yeah, um, we're taught that way. I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't raised to just listen. I had to learn that. And I have ADHD too. That didn't help. All right. But listening is fucking hard for me already. But I always wanted to listen, but I also always wanted to respond. I was
Right.
ready for someone else to be done talking, especially about like religion. I was
Right.
ready to hear how wrong they were, so I knew which route I needed to take to bring them my version of God
To the Lord.
back to the Lord, but the true one, not the false one that they're all worshiping. Their version
Hold
of
on.
God is
Every Christian who's ever said the true one, the right one, are every single one of them, every single one that I've ever heard say that. When I say, but theirs is an Abrahamic God too, they have no fucking clue what I'm talking about. None. They have no idea what that even means. And I'm like, we have so much work to do.
yeah.
And then
I doubt
the story of Noah, the story of all these stories can go back to Hammurabi. They can go back to Gilgamesh. They can, like, they're just recycled, and they don't know who any of those people are. And I didn't either when I was a magical thinker, when I was a theist. I didn't know who any of those were either.
because you aren't offered those,
No.
right? It drives me insane and I hate it. And I hate that so many states in our union right now are allowing more and more Christian alternatives to education or Christian supplements because they are robbing children of their opportunity to see that there are other options on the table. Look, I get it, Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris, that Islam is bad, but
Uh,
stop thinking Christianity is just good. Like
right.
on the flip side, in comparison, like look, they both have their poor sects. And Islam, I know you can meet some beautiful Islamic people who are
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
peaceful and they only want to cherry pick the good things in their Bible. They do that because they are peaceful people who want peaceful lives. They can't believe there are bad things in their good books
Taking it
because
wrong.
it would go contrary to their
Yes.
beliefs. There are Christians like that too, but it doesn't excuse the bad things in their books and the bad beliefs that they're um um mostly minute beliefs can lead to worse ones. If they go and study more, they can find hateful beliefs along the way on either plane, right? Just speaking of Islam, Christianity, and Judy.
Judaism. Yeah.
Judy is there's a word I'm missing. Christian Judeo
Yeah.
versus Islamic,
Judaism.
right? But all
No,
Abrahamic.
Judeo-Christian. Yeah. Is it Judeo-Christian
Yeah,
Christian
it is
belief?
Judeo. Yeah,
Christian belief. I'm like, oh God.
yeah. Um, they all suck to a point, and sadly, um, the Muslim world is a little bit behind the Christian world because there's so many third world countries that
Who
are
are
Islamic
Muslim?
right now, and more
Yeah.
of the Christian countries and the Christian Judeo ones have more civilized, capitalistic, get your ass back to work and you can go to church on Sunday kind of like we
Not
we
even
we've gotten.
even
Hmm?
that. No, no. It's
No.
it's geopolitical. It's where they're located, who their governments are, and how much they have been. I mean, in order for there to be the level of opulence in our world, there has to be the opposite in other places. That's
Mm.
the way it is. In order for there to not be starving people digging for gold and cobalt and slave, in order for that not to be, there wouldn't be billionaires.
Yeah. You can't have a capital without some rural areas. I think I nailed that word, by the way. Rural.
Rural.
I think I said it right. Ooh, I feel good. I can go to bed and sleep soundly at night. Um, but no, and that's what I meant. And I hope you guys saw the in quotations when I said civilized. Um, but no, I think our points kind of merge. Is
Right.
what I'm saying is that like we're on top. Like all of the countries that us three are from and where we are in them, we're on top, right? These other countries are suffering more. They have more poverty. And like every single fucking here you go. Here's your Bible. And every time the Jews, the Hebrews lose their land, they get a little more radical in the Old Testament because one, they need to they need to cope. It is just cope. You go through, you read the cope of their politics. We've lost our land. We've lost our God. Our God has died. Our God is no, no, no. Our God is the best God. Our God is mad at us. We were doing no, they were doing wrong. The people across the fucking street were assholes. They ruined our lives. And they were fornicating. They were doing this. We need to do better. We need to be better Hebrews. We need to be better Israelites. We need to be better Jews. We need to get our land back, and we need to go kill the motherfuckers who are in where we were supposed to be in. We don't need that land, but we need this land back. That's what that's what this book of our text said is
That's
our home. And they've
Deuteronomy.
taken it over. What now?
And so that's Deuteronomy, right?
Yeah. Um, and also, I mean, no, it's not just Deuteronomy. It's also like in Exodus, like you're gonna go back to this land, and right? Yeah, there's people there, but the walls
Biblical
of
supremacy.
Jericho will come down if you
Yeah.
circle it, yada yada. And look, you'll find this in the Bible. My point is, they become violent. They take over another people state when they can because they feel like they're entitled to it because they're homeless. They don't have a land anymore. The Palestinians don't have land. We still have so many Palestinians who have some semblance of land. They can still see their home. They're not completely radicalized yet, but that comes later. The longer they go without a home, the longer you force a tribe to be nomadic, if they don't want to be nomadic and they want their land back, the more desperate they will become. And bad things happen. And power shifts eventually. It's just that's one of the truest things in the Bible that is throughout the texts is that cope happens, they hunker down on ideas, they radicalize, and they get violent because they're sick and tired of being pushed around. And there's so many things that feed in to their narrative that our culture does and Israeli culture helps with, and all over, like are these controlling factions make others feel oppressed. And you see it no matter who's in charge in the Bible, right? The Babylonians, you see
Yeah.
it when Rome's in charge, and and the Jews just fucking hate it. Like, man, look at these fucking heretics, right? Um, and when the Persians take over, it doesn't matter. They get oppressed, they get angry, they get violent from time to time, and we need to
Yeah.
break these cycles. Um, Easier said than done, but if we don't talk about it, we don't know about it, and we can't make solutions, and we can't have constructive conversations. And that's what I hope we are about in this show and this community. So you guys can go have more constructive conversations. And remember, there's no names. There's no names. Sorry, there's no names to Hamas right now.
Right.
We're trying to kill the whole goddamn dragon and its habitat. Please use that in conversation.
Right.
Leave comments down below. I want to know what you guys think and what others think of this idea. We do gotta wrap it up. I'm sorry.
Right? It should be the war criminals, the specific criminals, not the population.
Yeah. Manufacturing consent. All right. We love you guys so much. We are about out of battery and about out of time. And we got to get ready for next 2 weeks.
At 10:30, I was at 10:30 when we started. I was at 99%. I had just taken it off. It was 100. So
nice. Oh, and so everyone knows, I won't be here in 2 weeks. I'll be in Wyoming testing for my martial arts stuff. So I won't be around. But if you guys want to go ahead and do the show, do the show. Bring someone else on.
Oh,
Brantley.
Oh, tell me who you guys are interested to see. I did reach out to Professor Richard Wolf again. I'm just waiting to see. I mean, we're nobody, so probably won't. But still, I gotta try.
Yeah.
Gotta try. Love you guys, and you probably should stay humanist for godless sake.
For godless sake.